has spent them here. For whatever be our watchword, conquer and prevail. Hail to thee, our alma mater, such plains then would all hail. When across the world we wander, this will be our song. Honor, love, and true devotion, all to here belong. For whatever be our watchword, conquer and prevail. Hail to thee, our alma mater, such place that would all hail.
Let's do this. I'd like to call to order the regular public meeting of September 20th, 2023. Mr. Jones, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Bauer?
Here.
Mrs. Boroff?
Here.
Ms. Brody?
Here.
Mrs. Mitchell? Ms. Suriani?
Here.
Ms. Williams?
Here.
Ms. Winkler?
Here.
Dr. Kolkowski?
Here.
Mr. Murray?
Here. Quorum is present. Can you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, executive session, we went through personnel, HIB, suspension and detention, and our legal status report. Additions to the agenda, H13, real estate appraisal services. Now we'll move over to the superintendent's report. Dr. Mast?
Thank you, Mr. Murray. First, I'd like to ask us and the community to take a moment of silence. Chet Janis passed away, and he was the principal of Park Middle School, now Nettingham, for 30 years. Thank you. On another note, tonight I'm excited to share some highlights regarding the opening of school, and that will be in the instructional update. Additionally, I'd like to give some news on our Right at School before and after care. And I'd like to thank Mrs. Cleary for the work that she's been doing with Right at School to keep this program on course. So first, Right at School is currently serving over twice as many families as was previously served in the before and after care program. This growth has caused some growing challenges that are being addressed as follows. There is daily contact between RAS and district leadership to review any concerns immediately. 2, we have scheduled weekly meetings to evaluate and improve the overall processes. 3, the temporary addition of district teachers and aides to assist and communicate the methods used during the school day. And Right at School is covering the cost of the district employees who are supporting this program. Right at School has significantly increased their own staffing and continues to do so. Right at School has also brought in the following leadership staff to evaluate the program's implementation. They brought in their senior director of implementation. They brought in their child inclusion and quality manager. They brought in 2 experienced area managers from locations around the country. They've brought in assigned a senior area manager and the regional vice president for operations. From these visits, they've also planned a 4-hour training session that will be held on Monday, the 25th, and they will continue with ongoing training sessions over the next months. So, the beginning has been a little bumpy, but recognizing that it's a brand-new program and they're familiarizing themselves with the district, they're being very responsive to the feedback, and it is getting better every day. So I will continue to keep the board apprised of how that's going, and what we are happy about is so many families have the opportunity to benefit from that program. Additionally, in my report, I would like to share that, that we know that this is going to be a very engaging year. We plan to reach out to all of the stakeholders, our staff, our community, parents, to help us plan for the future needs, such as additional space and universal air conditioning. On tonight's agenda, we have first steps in engaging professionals to identify, what is possible for the future of the district and our needs for our students. And Mr. Jones will speak further to that.
Thank you. So, we'll go through a little bit about enrollment in our presentation tonight for the opening of schools, but our very preliminary numbers, are showing that our head count is up, for student count is up 85 students year over year from last October. So significant jump, and it's the highest enrollment we've had in the district since at least 2007. I pulled from 2007, it's the highest we've ever had. So obviously brings a lot of challenge and space within the district. And so this proposal really, the first, there's two on there from our architects. First one is related to pre-referendum planning, and this will involve everything from internal meetings, creating the appropriate stakeholders, external meetings. It'll outline potential projects over a certain period of time, and we'll be giving, this kicks off the process to hopefully identifying space either within our buildings to add on, or purchasing land within the towns to build or to buy an existing building. So it's exciting and challenging, but I think that given the enrollment challenges and that the new developments are just starting to open now, we'll continue to have these enrollment challenges over the next few years. Additionally, we'll be looking at, of course, HVAC, and we expect to start at the end of October and early November to have community meetings and to update everyone at every meeting going forward. One thing I remind everybody is that we paid off our debt last year, so we currently have no debt on the books, and actually we have not voted on a referendum in over 20 years. So this is a pretty big deal for the town to look at all these projects. So again, this is the first start of this is there's an investigative process. We'll start our internal meetings, identifying committee members, identifying the best groups within the town to reach out to, and we'll kick it off from there. Second proposal that's on here, and that's the one, and I'll mention it again later. It's on the agenda, it's I think H6. So H6, so the second one is a short-term planning. So if we did purchase a building, if we did expand the school, it's gonna take some time, raise the funding, put it on the bidding out the projects, and then executing. So in order to get our enrollments up now, we want to do another exploratory process to look for space within the schools, reconfigure some of the space, potentially bring in some temporary units, anything we can do to, I would say, bolt on classrooms to provide extra space for the students and for the additional enrollment. And with the plan of the goal to have additional classrooms for the start of next school year. So more to come. So just sort of reiterate what we're doing here. We will have updates at every board meeting. There'll be communication going out to all stakeholders on a frequent basis. Additionally on this agenda is approval of a real estate attorney that will help us identify and potentially negotiate with any properties in town we're looking at. And also, one of the additions to the agenda was an appraisal firm. So appraisal firm will help us then help us with any pricing so we can quickly, if we do identify, we quickly look at a price for a building. So we make it a little bit faster. In addition, we will, in the coming meetings, we'll identify different additional partners. A bond attorney, we'll be looking at Phoenix Advisors. We already have engaged them, but I think we may need additional work on pricing out potential scenarios if we did have to raise money, tell you taxpayer impact, those types of items. If we did identify a building, we would have some sort of testing for asbestos and mold and those types of things. And we will engage our current public relations firm that we have to help us with some of the messaging and making sure that we're getting all the stakeholders and somebody that has experts in this, and we'll lean on other districts that have done this, and I've done this once before in another district as well. So we're gonna make sure we'll have the right team to make sure that we have full transparency with everybody involved, so that there's no questions about what we're doing and when we're doing it. So I think it's exciting and challenging at the same time, and I can't wait to get started.
And just to be 100% clear, the prioritization of anything that's gonna happen will be a stakeholder decision. So the entire community will be engaged in this process. So this is not gonna be a group of 2 people. This will be a large community effort because are all invested in making sure that the future for our kids that gives them every opportunity available. So this is very important for making sure that, people do participate and, raise their hand and want to be a part of the process.
And I just want to make sure we also are including the students as stakeholders, as well as the staff, since they're using the buildings.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Board President announcement. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law is enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Scotch Plains Family Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted at the Board of Education office located at 512 Cedar Street, Scotch Plains, New Jersey. Such notice is also provided in written notice forwarded to the Union County Hawk, Star Ledger, Township Clerk of Scotch Plains, Borough Clerk of Fanwood, in the annual notice of regularly scheduled meetings as adopted May 9th, 2023. We will now move over to our student representative report. Syra.
Awesome. So on the topic of starting school, I've had a really great couple first weeks, and I'm actually going to give a quick report from all of my siblings who are at the 3 different schools. So my youngest brother Jaden is in 2nd grade at Brunner, and what he said that he likes most about school is Spanish because he's learning other languages. This is his first year of taking another language, so he's really excited about it. My brother Joey, who's in the 6th grade at Nettingham, just started switching classes, which is got lost a couple times, but now he's got it down. He really likes his geography class with Mr. Hofer at Nettingham. And then my sister Serena, who's a freshman at the high school, said that the high school is really cool and she likes her math class the most. So yeah, that is on the starting of school. Some updates from the high school are that the senior sunrise was last week. That was really cool. I went to that. There's a football game this Friday against Westfield, which is our rivals, so that's expected to be a big one. There's a soccer doubleheader tomorrow where boys soccer plays GL and then girls soccer is playing Kearney afterwards. And then something else that's pretty cool is that the SMAC Club, which is the Student Movement Against Cancer, is in a coin race against Westfield. And then finally, for the juniors and maybe sophomores and maybe seniors, the next SAT is on October 7th and then the ACT is on October 28th. Yeah, and that's it.
Just to add a little piece to the Westfield game, I believe it's the class of 63 that is also coming to be recognized at the game. I believe they had a championship football team in their class, and they had other very, very talented and successful athletes, and they will be recognized at the beginning of that game. So that's an exciting piece too. So if you're coming to the game, I would recommend you get here early because parking will be very challenging.
And I think the other important thing to note is we may have an additional rep, hopefully.
Yes, that is hopefully by mid-October. We're starting the interview at the end of September, so hopefully there will be a junior joining me on the board. But yeah.
Excellent.
Are you involved in an interview process, Ira?
Yes. So
Excellent.
I'm gonna help interview, and yeah, I'm excited.
Great. Thank you.
Thank
Anyone have anything for Syra? Any questions? All right, so we're gonna move to the instructional update, the opening of school presentation.
All right, I'm going to move to the podium.
And I'm gonna move away from the screen.
I'll just skip over that. So, it has been said that a wonderful benefit of a career in education is July and August. However, educators do much more than vacation in the summer. They put their best energy into preparing for the new school year. Our administrative team came together for the first day of administrative retreat on July 11th. The Township of Scotch Plains hosted our day at Shady Rest. We learned about the historical significance of the site. We developed goals for the 23-24 school year, and we prepared to implement the new law on behavioral threat assessment management. Our work continued on August 22nd and 23rd, where we worked with Marlon Stiles on the importance of making connections to our families, students, and colleagues. Also, we focused on responding to everyday prejudice. We discussed effective co-teaching models, and we provided annual training on our professional teacher evaluation tool, among other things. We had both a well-attended and successful Creative Summer Workshop under the leadership of Jennifer Fassout. Dr. Wayne Millett was the supporting administrator. Students truly enjoyed their time in these sessions and learned new and exciting skills. Dr. McGarry, can you speak to the curriculum initiatives?
Surely. So summer is really one of the busiest times of the year in curriculum instruction, and this summer was truly one for the record books. As you'll see the evidence on the next slide, a great deal of time in the summer is spent recruiting new staff members and providing professional development. But going back to the previous slide, some highlights of other work this summer included planning for the 5th grade teaming that so far is getting rave reviews from both 5th grade students and 5th grade teachers. Our supervisors work with teams of teachers to review the pacing of our curriculum over the 22-23 school year to adjust the same for this year. At the elementary level, we spent a great deal of time considering the allocation of time to various subjects, and in order to maximize time, our social studies and science supervisors and teachers worked together to craft an integrated approach to these subjects in grades 1 through 4. This work also built upon an integrated work from the 3-day Climate Education Symposium we held here in late June. We also prepared for the launch of a new program and courses at the high school, including our new Teaching Academy for Social Justice and 3 new electives in social studies, including American Popular Culture, AP Psychology, which is currently unbelievably enrolling 132 seniors, and the newest AP course offering that we were selected to pilot last year, African American Studies, which has 15 SPF pioneers engaging in the study of 79 topics this year that range from early African kingdoms to how Jim Crow laws impacted African Americans after Reconstruction, as well as the achievements of Black Americans in science, music, and art. We also took time this summer to update the K-12 proficiencies for physical education, which will complement the K-12 health proficiencies adopted last spring. And finally, we updated the programs of studies for the elementary, 5th grade, and middle school grades. Oh, and finally, ×2, we crafted and just today submitted a proposal to win funding in the state's high-impact tutoring competitive grant program. More to come on that, should we win the grant next month. If you could go to the next slide. We also onboarded 35 new teachers or certificated staff members this summer in a 3-day orientation held in late August. Giving our staff foundational training in just about everything you can imagine they needed in order to get the year off to a great start, as well as engaging them in our strategic plan from day one. So they all received the foundational training that all of our staff received 2 years ago related to DEI, and will be receiving year 2 of that to catch them up to year 3 over the course of the year in their new teacher roundtables. So all total, we have 35 new certificated staff, 13 support staff, 1 new administrator in the person of our supervisor of math, business, and computer science, Matthew Orend, 6 new coaches for a total of 55. And the images here on the screen are of a tradition that, something has become a tradition, which is the annual bus tour of our new staff, stopping at each school with the staff at that school popping off the bus to take a photo in front of their school sign. So it's a great summer, great start to the school year.
Thank you, Dr. McGarrett. Mr. Jones will talk about our facilities and infrastructure work.
Thank you, Dr. Mass. So a lot of stuff on here, this will be up on our website, so I think it'll be good for everybody to review. A couple of highlights I want to touch on here. Security obviously is always on somebody's mind, so we did a fairly major security upgrade of most of our cameras, and we also expanded the coverage of our security cameras. We're testing a new PA system again, so instead of just really doing it the whole district, putting one in, seeing how it works, making sure it's the right product, making sure we have the right products aligned with it. Do that. The radios, upgraded radios throughout the district. Maintenance, there's always general renovations, nursing offices and such. Canopy outside runner, we have a cool picture on the next slide. So we revamped that, was really nice outside of Terrell. Football field security, again, put fencing around all the bleachers. Making sure safety of our students so they don't go under there and get hurt. Concrete pavement repairs. And some of the custodial, revamped green cleaning in all the schools. New washing machines to clean the microfiber we're using. The grounds team, we've brought our turf field grooming in-house, saved some funds for the district, so that we started that this year. Some capital projects, water stations throughout the district, of course, the expansion planning I mentioned, and a high school life skills room, which everybody's really excited for a special education program that's currently in process. So a lot of stuff over the past year. Most has been done the past 6 months to really a lot of blocking and tackling to take care of our facilities. Cool photo of this up here. Canopy, upper left corner. It's a canopy at Terrell that I know a lot of people, when I first started, I had multiple people mention every time I went to the school, and so excited to have that finally done. Our SPF lettering outside the football field, which we have to wait for a year for it to grow. As it grows, then we can start doing some better, more professional trimming. And one that I'm excited about, bottom left-hand corner, we got some in our ticket booth at the football field. We have some lights in there. Yes, very excited about that, especially since somebody on my staff is the one selling those tickets. And now can actually get some heat in there as well. So I'm very excited about that. With that, I'll hand it back over.
So our convocation was a stadium filled with joy and energy for the new school year. The band, the chorus, the cheerleaders welcomed the entire staff back. The mayors, our board president, Evan Murray, the PTA, and students joined the keynote speaker, Marlon Stiles, in celebrating the work that we will do together during the 23-24 school year. Dr. Rabimbis, will you speak to the first day of school?
Sure. In education, we have the good fortune of having 2 new years, so happy new year to everyone. As we all know, everyone loves the first day of school, meeting our teachers, our old friends, and giving us energy to learn, have fun, and to make connections and friendships. I'm not talking about the staff, I'm talking about our students, and they enjoyed the first days of school. In special education, We continue to serve the students with IEPs in a variety of ways within the district in the least restrictive environment, with a keen eye on equity and inclusion. Teacher professional development this summer focused on specialized reading instruction and team building our vision for co-teaching as an administrative group.
Thank you. So we all hear the marching band practicing. They are working hard on their new routine to the score of Les Mis. I encourage everyone to get to one of their performances. You won't be sorry. Our fall sports are well on their way into the season. I encourage everyone to adopt a team and really learn about our student athletes and coaches by attending games. You will see second to none parental support and impressive commitment and passion from our students and coaches. So families are moving in. I don't blame them. Scotch Plains Fanwood is a great place to live and to go to school. Our growth is making our classrooms a little crowded, and as we discussed in the opening of this meeting, we will be bringing the community together to envision together what we need for our schools in the future. What I know right now is we need more classroom space and we need universal air conditioning. All to here belong is the powerful line from our alma mater that calls us to care for each other. Our energized opening of schools reflects our commitment to each other's success. I want to thank the board for all that they do as volunteers for our students, my administrative team, our exceptional staff, our supportive parents, and our whole community. I am looking forward to us experiencing great things together for the 23-24 school year. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Does anybody have comments?
I do.
Sure.
So it's always really exciting at the beginning of the school year to see. I love that recap of what was accomplished over the summer. Even that, being a little bit more privy as a board member to seeing, a little bit more firsthand when it's summarized at the beginning of the school year, and you really get to see everything that was accomplished over the summer and all the excitement leading into the school year. I say thank you for that. But I wanted to comment specifically on American pop culture because I did not realize that it was a completely new course, and I have a child in it. And so I can say firsthand that, wow, the curriculum is just way beyond anything I would have expected. It is amazing to see the thought processes that they're approaching on really looking at history and culture and music and how it's shaped where we are. And so I just wanted to give that feedback because it is a new course apparently, and it's fantastic from what I hear. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Boroff. Anyone else? Any other comments?
Well, great slides. I like seeing how all the different schools were represented with the new faculty going on the bus trip. And I hope one year I get to go on that bus trip. It looks like so much fun.
We will save you a seat.
Thank you. Nice job with the slideshow.
Yeah, and Robin has left, but I thank Robin for the work that she has put into that slideshow.
Great. And thank you again. We'll move over to our first public comment section. So in accordance with Scotch Plains Fanwood Public School Bylaws 0164 and 0165, the meeting will be open for 15 minutes for public comments, maximum 3 minutes per speaker. Speakers addressing superintendent items, business functions, and other board business will be heard first. If time remains, speakers may address other matters. Speakers, please state your full name and the town in which you reside. Boards use the public comment period as an opportunity to listen to citizens' concerns, but not to debate issues or enter into a question and answer session or cross-examination between the public and the individual members. Be aware that not all issues brought before the board meeting will be resolved that evening. Boards may respond to public comment by seeking additional information or by delegating the authority to investigate the issue to the superintendent or his or her designee. So I will now open up the public comment section for 15 minutes. If anybody has a public comment, please step forward, state your name and the town in which you reside. Okay, seeing no one, we will close the first public portion and we'll have another one later in the meeting. Moving on to additional reports, letters to the board. We had 2 emails that were received from the public by the board and were sent to the appropriate administrator. We will now move to committee reports. Does anyone have committee reports? Ms. Williams?
Thank you, President Murray. The Facilities Committee met on September 11th, 2023, and there are 2 proposals on the agenda. One is contemplating the purchase of a building at 330 South Avenue in Fanwood. We did meet with the architects as well as the realtor of the building, and there are some recommendations about if the investment is worth it, considering the amount of square footing. The good news is the building was a school prior, and it's a more economical solution. Some other areas that needed attention were the parking lot. As Mr. Jones stated, we are going to probably begin to start the pre-referendum work to create a framework and start ad hoc committees. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Any questions for Ms. Williams? Okay. Ms. Brody, I think yours is probably right on the heels of that one, so
Yeah,
do you want
exactly.
to go?
I was gonna say. We had the Finance Committee meeting. We also discussed the property at 330 South Avenue, and so I don't want to repeat the whole thing, but it was exactly as Tanya had said. Mr. Jones had discussed the 2 architect proposals for approval. We discussed those, the pre-referendum research and analysis, and the immediate need for additional classrooms and reviewing our current facilities. And we recommend all of these things. And that concludes the finance report.
Thank you, Ms. Brody. Any questions for Ms. Brody?
Can I do my next one?
Sure.
While it's on me
Sure.
right now? All right, so community relations, we met on last night, actually, and Ryan Miller attended, and he was describing an athletic study that he's planning for the 3rd and 4th grade students and their parents. He's working on creating a roundtable type discussion with parents regarding their child's participation in sports. There would be speakers from different facets of the athletic world, such as a pediatric orthopedic doctor, athletic trainer from the high school, guidance counselor from the high school coaches, and more to be determined. The idea is to present a non-biased point of view of the athletic opportunities for their children while they're in 3rd or 4th grade and moving up into high school. And hopefully this will give parents information to consider and ideas that are transferable to multiple sports. There has not been a date set yet as to when this will take place. It was just in discussion. And that's, concludes my report.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Brody. Any questions for Ms. Brody? Any other committee reports? Ms. Siriani?
I have the curriculum committee report, and hopefully I won't be too lengthy. I really summarized, but it was a really a meeting full of information, because as Dr. McGarry stated just a little bit earlier, there's a lot of work that goes into the summer, and the first curriculum meeting of every year is an update to the board on all of the summer work. So I'll just go a little bit more in depth than he did. And break it down by content area. So here is a summary of the summer work. In English and Language Arts, grades K through 5, summer work focused on pacing guides, reading and writing workshop, and developing new units of study for K to 2. It looked at our foundations curriculum to ensure alignment with workshops, and a book club for staff focused on reading strategies, specifically comprehension, and professional development, which there's professional development for every content area, but in this area focused on the mini workshop and how to structure it. English Language Arts grades 6 through 12 focused specifically on revising grade 7 writing workshop, making smoother connections from 6th to 8th grade and having 7th be a bridge, and ensuring consistency across both the middle schools. 2 new units were added, narrative poetry and windows and mirrors. At the high school, English 2, a new storytelling unit was added, and in English 4, the college essay unit that has been done previously was revised and the time frame was altered to be more in line with the need to complete college applications, and also to relate this unit to those who might not be college bound. A book club was also convened over the summer for staff, helping staff focus on themes of attention that they could then apply to their students. In science and engineering, as Dr. McGarry stated earlier, there was an integration with social studies and science through a focus on climate change education and environmental stewardship, specifically developing focus on how science informs how we live and how students can impact it with their decisions. In health, professional development for PE and health staff reviewed the competencies and lesson design, planning SEL units at the elementary level, drug and alcohol education for middle school, and developing a health calendar for high school, including mental health first aid and drug and alcohol education. In mathematics, grades K through 5, the pacing guides were updated. Staff also had professional development, which included an everyday math academy that offered strategies for providing a deeper engagement with math for their students, and grades 6 through 12 math, middle school, focused also on pacing guides, and slight modifications were made to 8th grade sequence of lessons. And also, new instructors were familiarized with the curriculum and ensuring alignment between Math Expo and math class. Preschool and kindergarten focused on reviewing use of the full day and best practices and how to expand student choice and autonomy, and SEL. Social studies and media, work continued on auditing our library collections, which we've been talking about over the last year, ensuring mandated changes were made to high school courses, ensuring pacing of U.S. History 2 allowed for all the content that it includes, as every year it expands as we move forward in history in the future. Preparation for the 3 new courses that Dr. McGarry mentioned, and a cohort of staff also engaged in a book club around strategies for positive habits of successful students. There was also PD on how to intervene meaningfully when a student says something inappropriate in class with regard to race or ethnicity, and how instructors might manage those conversations, and applying learning for justice resources. In special services, there were tweaks to the report card for self-contained classes. Administrators reviewed goals and assessments, and they reviewed the pull-out resource classes. In fine arts and PE, we already saw that there was a big focus on the creative summer workshops for students, and updates focused on the vocal music proficiencies and reviewing the origins of songs that are taught to students for appropriateness. For example, some nursery rhymes are now known to have racist origins, so just reviewing the song choices. K through 12 proficiencies for gym were updated, and teachers focused on how to reinstitute gracious winning and losing. And finally, in world languages, staff worked on the development of pacing guides, though in world languages, these had not previously been utilized, so really developing the pacing guides. English language learners were able to attend a camp for the second, to immerse in English speaking. I believe it was a 2-week camp, and instructors had professional development that was online and self-paced. Also, data was reviewed from the STAMP assessment. This is the assessment that allows for the seal of biliteracy, which we have discussed in the past, and all juniors took the assessment, although they can take it again as seniors to get a sense of how we were doing in this area, and 55 juniors already qualified for the seal of biliteracy, which is really impressive. So that was all of the summer curriculum work. That was a snapshot of the summer curriculum work that was done. Another agenda item that our committee discussed was the high impact tutoring competitive grant that Dr. McGarry also mentioned. And the board is being asked to approve the application of this grant, in which the district would be asking for $230,000 for tutoring to promote learning acceleration, focusing on 3rd and 4th grade, but can be broadened. And also the program of studies, the board approval is being sought tonight, and everyone should have received, that is on the agenda. A copy of that is attached to the agenda. And that's it. So a very full meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Suriani. Any questions? Any other committee reports? Okay, enrollment report we talked about, Mr. Jones had talked about. So we'll move on to superintendent. So out-of-district placements and forward.
Okay, first item is out-of-district placements for the board to approve the additional 23-24 ESY and school year out-of-district placements. 2, for the board to approve the 2 HIBs discussed in executive session on August 29th. In those cases, 0 were found to be HIB, and 3 will require a roll call vote, so I'm going to skip that one.
We can probably do roll call for all of it, right? If we block it,
Okay.
that's fine.
All right, so then for 3, it's the program of studies. We're asking the board to approve the programs of study that are listed. For field trip requests, for the board to approve the field trips that are listed, and
That's it.
that's it.
Do we have a motion to approve the 4 items that Dr. Mass just went through?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any comments or questions?
I have a question since they're blocked. If I wasn't there for the discussion about HIB, the HIB cases,
But you received.
I
the
mean,
report.
I read about them in the materials, but,
Yeah, it's not an ethics issue. If you feel comfortable voting, given that you read the documents, it's fine. You don't have to abstain just because you weren't present for the closed session review.
okay.
Mr. Jones, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Bauer?
Yes.
Mrs. Boroff?
Yes.
Ms. Brody?
Yes.
Ms. Suriani?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Winkler?
Yes.
Dr. Kolakowski?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes. Motion carries. Personnel, Dr. Mass.
For personnel, we ask the board to approve the recommendations that we made in exec this evening.
Do we have
So
a mo-
moved.
Ms. Winkler, do we have a second?
Second.
Deb?
Ms. Brody, any questions or comments on that? Mr. Jones, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Bauer?
Yes.
Mrs. Boroff?
Yes.
Ms. Brody?
Yes.
Ms. Suriani?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Winkler?
Yes.
Dr. Kolakowski?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes. Motion carries. Moving on to the business functions.
Number 1, staff training. Number 2, additional related services for special ed students. Number 3 is parental contracts for student transportation. Number 4 is the much talked about high impact tutoring competitive grant. Number 5, a little discussion on that one. So every 3 years we go out to bid for our trash removal recycling bid. In the past, we've separated those and put them, so this time I tried to streamline and put them together, hoping, one vendor, hopefully to reduce costs as much as possible or maintain costs. But I think we're hearing other municipalities and other districts is that the cost of trash removal is significant, and we're no different. That from the last contract, we're up 56%. And this is, the impact of inflation, and the recycling even more. So recycling's double from the last contract. So significant impact to the budget, and this is just another example of the challenges we faced over the past 2 years, and why we continue to focus on maintaining and make sure we're most efficient processes and the lowest cost possible when any purchasing is completed. 6 is what we discussed, pre-referendum planning. Number 7 is the real estate attorney we discussed. Number 8 is the theater vendors, for the play. Right, yes. And number 9, these are sort of standard monthly reports. Fire and security drill, financial reports 10, 11 disbursements listings, 12 payment of bills, and 13 is the real estate appraisal services we've discussed previously.
Do we have a motion to approve the business items?
So moved.
Siriani, do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Boroff, do we have any questions for Mr. Jones on any of those?
I do.
Sure.
With the recycling and the garbage removal, is there any benefit, or has there been any talk about going in with the municipalities to try to decrease the cost?
Theirs is up the same amount, and when we talked to them last time, I think they're using the same person we are, and I would say that our costs are not up as high as theirs, and we only received one bid for the services. So when we talked to them previously, their cycles are different. We would have to do something to break contract, somehow break contract.
Because the renewal's a different
Yeah,
time
you'd
than
have to
our-
redo it. Theirs is like right in the middle of ours.
Uh-huh.
So we'd have to do some kind of, I don't know how we would do it. We did discuss it briefly, but they had a new CFO at the time just coming on as well, and theirs was due, and I know there was a big, I don't wanna speak for the town, something, there was some pressure on them, when it actually came up, so that's sort of where it's at. But yeah, we discussed it at a partners meeting and, outside of the partners meeting as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the only other thing I just want to say for the public's benefit is that the theater vendors are ultimately reimbursed or paid by the proceeds from the plays.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion's carried. We're going to move on to board policies. I think we're breaking this into 2 sections, so I will pass this over to Ms. Winkler to talk about the 2 required that we're going to vote on today and the rest.
So, the first 2 that we will vote on, we're going to vote on them on first reading. According to our bylaws, we follow Robert's Rules of Order, and so typically we have a first reading and a second reading. In this case, these 2 policies are mandated and they need to take effect immediately. So we are going to vote to approve them this evening on first reading. For first reading, waiving bylaw 0131 for these 2 policies, I move that we approve policy 1642.01 on sick leave and policy 2419 on school threat assessment teams. What can I tell you about these 2 policies? The policy committee met on September 13th and we discussed these. The sick leave policy was created to address changes to New Jersey, the statute 18A 30-1 and 18A 30-4. They expand the scope of allowable uses for sick leave while also establishing provisions for boards to require reasonable documentation and advance notice for requests for sick leave. And then the policy and the regulation on school threat assessment teams. The new policy and regulations were created to address the new laws 18A 17-43.4 and 18A 17-43.5 and 18A 17-43.6, which require school districts to establish threat assessment teams for the 23-24 school year. The purpose of the threat assessment team is to provide school teachers, administrators, and other staff with assistance in identifying students of concern, assessing those students' risk for engaging in violence or other harmful activities, and delivering intervention strategies to manage the risk of harm for students who pose a potential safety risk, prevent targeted violence in the school, and ensure a safe and secure school environment that enhances the learning experience for all members of the community. They should help to break down silos of information so that everyone is working together to address the needs of the whole child. And as I said before, both of these policies are mandated and need to take effect. So So I move that we approve first reading and adoption of those two policies.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any comments or questions on those two new mandated policies? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. We are moving forward with the other 20-ish
Yeah.
first
So-
readings.
So then, the following policies are, policies I'm putting forth for first reading tonight, and then we can approve them at our next meeting. So policy 2423 and the regulations that go with it is for bilingual and ESL education. The policy and regulation are revised to include an alternate English language proficiency assessment for students who meet the criteria for statewide alternate assessments pursuant to the Administrative Code 6A 14-4.1 to assess their English language proficiency on listening, speaking, reading, and writing that is aligned to the state's academic achievement standards. Other revisions include a change in the definition of native language and a requirement school districts administer the statewide home language survey to determine which students have a native language other than English. A statewide screening process is a change from the district being required to develop their own screening process. And these are changes that are mandated. Policy 2425 and the corresponding regulations for emergency, remote, or virtual instruction. This policy is revised and regulation created to comply with the statute 18A 7F-9 and Administrative Code 6A 32-13.1 and related guidance from the Department of Education from August of '22. Also, these changes are mandated. Policy 2520 on instructional supplies was revised to comply with the statute 18A 34-1. Changes include allowing the superintendent to designate a staff member to develop regulations for the selection and utilization of instructional supplies and provide the principal or designate the responsibility for the inventory and distribution of the supplies, and as those changes are also mandated. Policy 3217 is use of corporal punishment. The policy is revised to address requirements of the statute 18A 6-1, which defines situations in which use of force on a student is appropriate for a teaching staff member. These changes also are mandated. Policy 4217, use of corporal punishment, is policy that was created to address the requirements of the same statute that I mentioned above, which defines situations in which use of force on a student is appropriate for a support staff member. This is a new policy that was created to address this, and this is mandated. Policy 5200 and the corresponding regulation on attendance. The policy and the regulation are both revised to comply with Administrative Code 6A 32-8.1 through 8.6. For background, there's a difference in what counts as an excused absence for the purposes of the state and federal reporting versus what counts as an excused absence within the school district for local decision-making. This policy and regulation are specifically for student attendance recorded in the district register for state and federal reporting. So definitions from Section A of the regulation were removed as they've been updated and positioned elsewhere in the regulation, and a new Section A of the regulation addresses the school register requirements that were outlined in the administrative code. Section B addresses the local board determining what constitutes excused absences for the purposes of truancy, student conduct, promotion, retention, award of course credit. Changes to the policy include definitions of parent and retention in the second paragraph, and all of these changes are mandated. Policy 5305, health services personnel, addresses revisions to Administrative Code 6A 16-2.3, including outlining the roles and responsibilities of the school physician, certified nurse, certified school nurse non-instructional, and non-certified school nurse. Revisions also include outlining the roles and responsibilities of the school physician, certified school nurse, and so on and so on. And these changes are also mandated. Policy 5308 and the corresponding regulation on student health records have been updated with minor revisions due to language changes in the administrative code, and these are mandated. Policy 5310 and its regulation that corresponds on health services were revised in accordance with updates to the administrative code. These revisions include updates to terminology reordering the provisions of the administrative code. In addition, the policy's been revised to remove provisions that are duplicated verbatim in the regulation. Policy 5512 on harassment, intimidation, and bullying. Notable updates to this policy include new Department of Education approved report forms. Also now, the intervention plan for a student who is an offender in 3 or more incidents of HIB in 1 school year may require the student and/or parent to complete a class or training program to reduce HIB behavior. The long lists of factors for determining consequences and remedial measures and examples of consequences and remedial measures included in the existing policy have been removed and replaced with Appendix A lists from the Department of Education model policy. And those changes are mandated. Policy 6112, reimbursement of federal and other grant expenditures, was updated to reflect current language, specifically the Carl D. Perkins Career and Technical Act of 2006, was recently renamed the Strengthening Career and Technical Education for the 21st Century Act. These changes are mandated. Regulations 6115.01, federal awards, funds, internal control, allowability of costs, was developed to address the process used for grant and budget development through the closeout of a grant, and that regulation is mandated. Policy 6115.04, federal funds, duplication of benefits, occurs when a person, duplication of benefits occurs when a person, household, business, government, or other entity receives financial assistance from multiple sources for the same purpose, and the total assistance received for that purpose is more than the total need for assistance. The policy helps identify and prevent duplication of benefits, and that is mandated. Policy 6311, contracts for goods or services funded by federal grants, was revised to indicate that vendor suspension and disbarment checks are applicable for contracts or purchase orders over $25,000 unless the district chooses a lower threshold. The revised policy now requires written evidence be maintained by the school business administrator and board secretary. These changes are mandated. Policy 7440, school district security, has been updated in accordance with the revisions of the, the state statutes. School districts are now required to provide local law enforcement with critical incident mapping data, which was formerly, it specified blueprints and maps for all schools and school grounds, and any subsequent revisions to the critical incident mapping data. And the policy also includes statutory definition of what critical incident mapping data is. These changes are mandated. If you're not already asleep, policy 8140 and the corresponding regulation that goes with that on student enrollments. This policy and regulation were revised to reflect changes in the administrative code. The regulation includes the newly created definition of days in membership, which replaces average daily attendance. Also, the equation for calculating average daily attendance was removed from the regulation. The requirement to keep separate registers depending on a student's grade or classification has been removed from the policy. Data collection process for the application of state school aid has been revised to assign data collection responsibilities to the superintendent or designee, and the school business administrator, board secretary, or designee, and these changes are mandated. Policy 8330 and corresponding regulation on student records have been revised to reflect changes in the administrative code. The changes are minor, basically just citation changes and language updates, also mandated. And if you haven't yet fallen asleep, should we look at the policies to be abolished, or should we do that under a separate motion?
No, I think you could just mention which ones are abolished, since we don't need to, it's only 4 of them.
Okay, so we are abolishing policy 1648.11, the road forward COVID-19 health and safety. The requirements are from the Department of Education in June 2021 are outdated, so we're going to abolish that. Policy 1648.13, school employee vaccination requirements. Governor's Executive Order 302 rescinded the prior Executive Order 253 that required COVID vaccination, and therefore this policy is to be abolished. Policy 9100, public relations. Since policy 9120 aligns with the requirements in the administrative code, this policy is now redundant and unnecessary, so we should abolish it. policy 9140 and the corresponding regulation on Citizens Advisory Committee. This policy is not required. Over the years, we've been incorporating citizen advisory committees into the policies that address those programs and statutes or administrative codes, so this is now redundant, so we should abolish that one as well.
Thank you, Ms. Winkler.
Yeah.
Ms. Winkler moved those policies and abolishments. Do we have a second for the first reading?
Second.
Ms. Brody, do we have any questions or comments on the policies or the abolishments? Ms. Bauer?
I do. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about two of them. One, emergency remote or virtual instruction. I understand all these are mandated, but what was the change here?
See, which one is that? Here we go. Policy is revised. Don't recall off the top of my head.
Which number is it? It's all outlined. Which number is it?
Yeah, but it doesn't
2425.
give any details, and I'm just wondering, remote instruction, what was changed? Because there was a lot of discussion about how you can or cannot use that time, so I'm just curious.
You still need to have in place, should you need to go remote, a plan to do so.
So, that was the change?
Yes.
Have a plan?
Yeah, it looks like it's.
Yeah, and it's posted on the website, our plan is posted on the website.
I see. Okay, and I also wondered if you could clarify, or someone could, about the corporal punishment. It said there were changes there, and I just wondered what those changes were.
That one was curious too. Do you have the summary of it? Because corporal punishment isn't permitted in New Jersey, but there were cases where you could.
The changes were minor, but I don't recall what they were.
It says that where it's allowed, and I'm just wondering where it's allowed.
It's only
then.
allowed in cases where there's a actual threat from that student, like a threat of life or safety of other students or something like that.
That's right.
Okay.
I read it carefully at the time to see what was in there, but I don't recall what made it different from what it said previously.
And I see it's
But there hadn't previously been a policy for support
with an
staff.
exception.
It was only for certificated staff. Now it's
A separate one for support staff.
You needed to make a separate policy for support staff.
I see. Okay, thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. New board business. Anyone have any new board business? Okay. Liaison reports. Anybody have liaison reports? Deborah?
Go ahead.
Mine's pretty quick. Our Scotch Plains CPAG group, Special Education Parent Advisory Group, kicked off their first meeting on Monday, September 11th. Just as an FYI, there will be a liaison-focused meeting, which will be held Monday, October 16th. At this meeting, the group will review and approve the 2023 end-of-year report, as well as the proposed 23-24 meeting theme plan. The meeting will also focus on work being done by current members for this school year and will provide an opportunity for parents and guardians who have an interest in joining to ask questions and see what CPAG looks like. I'm looking forward to sharing updates with all of you. In the meantime, again, I continually encourage everyone to go to the CPAG landing page and explore the numerous resources available and what opportunities there are for you and everyone to get more involved and learn more of the resources available at CPAG. So that's my update.
Mr. Murray, may I follow up?
Go ahead.
Just as a note, I know you always mention our SPFC bag. A few years ago, we updated our CPAG format, and we now have building representatives. And those building representatives last year went out and surveyed families to gain feedback on information they wanted to share with the district so that we could review and update our program services and any kinds of communications. based on that information, the leadership of the CPAG worked with Dr. Mast, with you and myself, to organize different workshops for the parents. We had staff come in, the administrators presented based on feedback that the parents had questions about. So those were very successful. We are doing a hybrid workshop model where parents are able to log in virtually while being here at the boardroom in person. And I think the most important, insightful thing that has happened is that our building representatives have worked very collaboratively with their individual buildings administrators to talk about the feedback they're receiving from parents, sharing them with the principals so that immediate impact could happen in the buildings, but also sharing it with us as an administrative team. The other thing that the CPAG leadership is doing is having parent-only meetings, and they scheduled, last year they had 2 scheduled. They'll be doing the same this year. And the nice thing about what the CPAG has done is with those parent meetings, they've taken the information and looked at these individual parent concerns and seen how they impact the system and shared those systemic concerns with us as an administrative team. And, I said to them at one meeting, they met with Dr. Mast and myself, and at the meeting I said, you made these so systemic that we can't answer without knowing more details. So they're really advocating for parents and looking at more parents to participate and to be building reps. There are some schools that we don't have reps for, so if anybody wants to come out and represent some of the schools, that would be wonderful to attend our meetings. And if you are parents of students with IEPs or 504s, please look out for the building rep surveys so that you can give your feedback so that can be shared with the system, because we do use that information. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Just to say one sentence about that, I really think the CPAG has been a vivid example of community partnership in making both Dr. Rabimbas's and my leadership stronger, because they really amplify the needs of the students and the voice of the parents. So we're very grateful for how that has evolved.
And I just also I'm sorry, but I'm listening. I have Nancy in my ear. I can hear her saying the voice of the student. There are some student representatives as well on CPAG.
Yes, before I answer.
Well, I have to, Dr. Rabimbas really summarized that so well that I feel like that's the one thing that might have been left out.
Yes, you are right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments? No? Okay. Ms. Bauer, you have a report?
Garden State Coalition of Schools met this morning. It was an excellent meeting. It was in person. The next meeting, October 18th, will be virtual again. The guest speaker today was the executive director of the New Jersey Principals Association, and the theme of her talk was on leading leaders. And so she was talking specifically about principals and supporting principals and the many roles they have, as evidence just talking about CPAG, threat assessments, all kinds of things. She made the point that the challenges are big, but the joys are many. But she also shared data from a survey that they did at the end of August, the beginning of September, of their members. And what they asked them was, what were the big issues that they saw and were confronting. So I thought you might be interested in those. Does anybody have a guess what the number 1 issue was?
Budget, staffing, budget.
That used to be the number one of the number one.
Transportation.
Staffing was number 1, student achievement number 2, staff mental health number 3, and let's see, number 4 was There was also a discussion about discipline inequities related to that and some very interesting data. Number 5 was HIB. Number 6 was culture and climate. Number 7, which I don't think was ever on the list before, was politics. And then also there was conversation. The Garden State Coalition of Schools has a new legislative committee. And as you all know, at Workshop, Garden State Coalition co-sponsors a legislative session, so that legislative committee's been working on the questions, encouraging everyone to come on October 24th to that meeting. But the part of the discussion around legislation was the lame duck session coming up and how many things often get passed quickly without time for review. It's kind of a scary time, and also discussion about legacy legislation. There are a lot of some high-profile people leaving, and the legislature likes to, apparently, I hadn't heard of legacy legislation before, maybe just me, but they like to do something for the outgoing people. If they had pet projects or pet bills that hadn't been passed during their tenure and they're leaving, they like to pass them for them. That's kind of scary given some of the things that they're talking about. So it looks to be a busy fall and upcoming time. Some of the things that are under discussion are graduation requirements. Another one that's hot is around literacy. There's a group that's trying to get very prescribed, I would say prescribed, literacy, more not just standards, but almost curriculum really in place, and probably even has a vendor in mind. All of these things would be unfunded mandates, so it's kind of scary to think about how that would happen. Again, not a lot of time for input. And then there was some, one of the things she also spoke about, back to the principals, was how the new hires and younger people they're very motivated, very flexible, and very mobile. Meaning there's a lot of poaching. They accept jobs and they continue to look after they've accepted. And so it was a very interesting meeting. There were a lot of other discussions, and so that's kind of a quick summary.
Thank you, Ms. Power. Any questions? Any other liaison reports? Okay, workshops. Requests to attend workshop reports. Okay, none. Board resolutions. So there's 4 resolutions. I am recommending we block them and vote together. So October Week of Respect, October 2nd to October 6th. The second one is School Violence Awareness Week, which is October 16th to the 20th. National Principals Month.
Appropriately,
For the
now
month
that
of
we're
October.
talking about principals.
Right. Teachers, administrators, and support staff resolution. So do we have a motion to approve these 4 resolutions?
So moved.
Amy's together. Boroff and Amy Winkler. Do we have any comments or discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. We will move on to board minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the August 29th regular public meeting minutes?
So moved.
Ms. Williams?
Second.
Ms. Brody? Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Second public comment. In accordance with Scotch-Plains Family Public Bylaws 0164 and 0165, the meeting will be open for 15 minutes for public comment, maximum 3 minutes per speaker. Speakers addressing superintendent items, business functions, and other board business will be heard first. If time remains, speakers may address other matters. Speakers, please state your full name and the town in which you reside. Please note boards or use the public comment period as an opportunity to listen to citizen concerns, but not to debate issues or enter into question and answer session or a cross-examination between the public and the individual members. Be aware not all issues brought before the board meeting will be resolved, and that evening, boards may respond to public comment by seeking additional information or by delegating the authority to investigate the issues to the superintendent or his or her designee. We'll now open the second and final public comment section for 15 minutes. Please step forward, state your name and the town in which you reside. Okay, seeing no one, I will close that session. Upcoming meetings, we have Thursday, October 19th is a regular public board meeting at 8 o'clock. High school auditorium, so we will not be here, we will be across the way. 6:45 teacher and staff tenure celebration, and then our executive session at 7:30. Good of the order. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share for the good of the order? Dr. Kulikowski.
I just, again, want to give my congratulations and support to everybody who had anything to do with the convocation kickoff. It was excellent. From the band greeting everyone up the walk, the tower balloons that were there, the cheerleaders, the student speakers, our guest speaker, and of course, Evan, you're speaking, Dr. Mast, Dr. McGarry's piece, and the singers, everything was so beautiful. It was a beautiful day, the weather was great, and it was so nice to see everyone come together to get everybody going, and the energy was out there. I mean, if you could can it, we could have lit the whole town up for days. It was wonderful. So thank you, Dr. Mast and the staff for providing that. It was wonderful.
Thank you, Dr. Kulikowski. Others for the good of the order?
I just go back to the beginning of school and getting started, and just a general comment that all of our staff, and the administrators, principals, teachers, I think an analogy that works is, you know, they kind of do everything with, do you say aplomb, with making it look like it's easier than it is. Sort of like a duck, you know, the duck's floating along, but the feet are going like this underneath. And so I feel like, you know, that's how hard our staff is working at all levels. And we may not always see all the paddling that's going on underneath. We probably see more in our committee meetings and everything, but I don't know that the public sees all the paddling underneath, because people do it with grace. So just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Ms. Bauer. Any other good of the order? Dr. McGarry.
Yeah, speaking of the marching band earlier, their home show, their marching band competition is Saturday. There are, I think, 12 bands coming to compete here on our field. It starts at 4:45, and our band performs at 8 p.m., followed by awards.
Thank you. I just want to welcome everybody back. It's good to be back. Seems like we have a very busy start to the school year again, once again. I know our seniors are looking forward to the year ahead. So welcome, and thanks everybody for your commitments. Anyone else for the good of the order? Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Dr. Kulikowski and Ms. Williams has a second, I'm assuming. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Thanks, Ashley.